Well, hello, ladies. Hello. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. I see some faces. Good. Well. So I see some people from Dnipro. Can you write your cities? Where are you from? Okay, I see Julia, Nastya, Luda. Well, Dnipro supports. Kiev. Okay. Nice to see you. So, and I guess we shall start because, well, there is a lot of information and I'm afraid I won't be able to tell you everything I want. So today, I'd like to first share with you my screen. Yeah. And today we'll speak about punctuation, as you know. Yeah, and that's one of important parts of language, yeah, which is unfortunately often neglected by teachers and by students. And what I'm going to start with. First, I've decided to eat my frog, yeah, and speak about punctuation, the definition, and about the two most frequently used punctuation marks as quotation marks and comma. Well, and after that, to show or to tell or to share my experience how we can implement teaching punctuation into our classes. Well, first we'll start with a definition, and if you can, could you please share your ideas of what punctuation actually is? So just type a few words, or you can unmute and just say it. Okay. Any ideas?
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
You hear me? Yeah. So actually, I think that punctuation is something that helps to understand people better, to understand people's ideas, what people want to say, with what emotions, mood,
Yeah.
and so on.
Actually, yes. Thank you. Well, I see some answers as well. Good. Thank you. Right. Well, so what I wanted to say that a punctuation actually, yeah, that's an act of practice of using marks in written and in writing and in printing, yeah, to separate sentences or sentence elements or to show the character of writing. Punctuation is used in writing to show the reader when we normally pause, when we need to pause, to emphasize some portion of materials that you've already said, and showing with your tone, with your voice, the attitude of the author to what you say, yes, and to understand, to show clearly what the person wanted to say, actually. Well, and I wanted to tell to show it on one example to show that punctuation really matters. So I took one advertising and I want to read it to you in two different ways. And the task for you is to say which one you like better and why. Just explain. Just a second. I'm going to move you a little bit. Here. And again, so the first one, the advertising. So that's not about language, that's just example. So our beanbag chair is the comfiest chair you will ever sit in, hands down. You'll never want to sit in anything ever again. We guarantee you'll be satisfied or you will get your money back, guaranteed. That's our promise. So that's the first advertising. You can see it on the screen. And the second one. Looking for the comfiest chair ever? Of course you are. Who isn't? We found it for you. And, spoiler alert, it's actually a beanbag. Crazy, right? If you don't believe us, the good news is you can try one. If you are not 100% happy, just return it, and we'll return it back to you every cent that you've paid. So first one, second one, sorry, maybe my intonation was not good, I'm a bit worried. So, but you see the difference, yeah? So could you tell me which one attracts more attention?
The
Second one.
The second one, sure, yeah. So with all this, it shows actually the voice, the attitude of the person to it, and well, it's much better. That's advertising, that's real life, yeah. So coming back to punctuation, yeah, and I want to speak first about two punctuation marks, the most frequently used. And the first one, and before I start, I want to tell you that, well, that's not the only one which is correct. You may see something which differs from what you always thought about punctuation and using commas. Well, there are so many different approaches that, well, you should choose something in the middle and follow your line. So the first is about commas, and according to this approach, that's the University of Sussex, that they study and they represent this approach. So there are 4 types of commas, and the first one is a listing, joining, gapping, and bracketing. So their names show their function actually. So the first one we are talking about is a listing. When do we use it? Well, when we have a list, obviously, yeah? So what the author says, he said that listing comma is used as a kind of substitute for the words and or. So whenever you can substitute it with the word and or in a list, yeah, you should use a comma. So it can be a list consisting of nouns, adjectives, some verb phrases, even clause. Yeah, so here, for example, for dinner, I had soup, fish, chicken, dessert, and coffee. And you see that this list consists of more than 2 words, in which case we wouldn't use comma. And we have and before the last word. And according to this rule, yeah, if we have and, which substitutes comma, we don't need any comma. But anyway, in some examples, you can see this comma, and there are a lot of arguments about it, if to put it or not, so that this comma even has its own name. It's called, do you know? You can say, no? That's called an Oxford comma or a serial comma. So you can put it or you can leave it. We'll return to this question a second later. So the list can consist of adjectives, and in this case it can be a bit tricky because to have a comma there, all the adjectives on the list should modify the same noun. Yeah. In this case, we don't have commas because we have, she gave me an antique ivory box. Yeah, box, a noun. Ivory modifies a box, but antique, it already modifies the ivory box, not the box itself. So that's why we don't have a comma. Look at this. Tell me, why don't we have a comma before blue? And yet you can say, just don't print, just say it. Who can? Don't just unmute and say this.
Like these adjectives describe noun from different perspectives.
Okay, yeah, and actually you can say that blue modifies eyes, right? Amazing modifies eyes, but light, what does it modify? Blue, right? Yeah, so it doesn't modify the noun actually. That's why no comma. I said that lists can be different, and it can be even the list of more than 3 clauses, independent clauses. So here, Lisa speaks French, Juliet speaks Italian, and I speak Spanish. So again, we have 3 sentences because in the case of 2, we wouldn't have comma anyway. So to put comma in this case, when we have only 2 independent sentences, we need and conjunction, or we need to remove comma and conjunction and put a semicolon in this case. So comma alone is not strong enough to separate 2 independent sentences. And here again, 3 independent sentences and before the last one and no comma. So I said that's up to you to decide which approach you use, the British one when we have no comma, or American one when we have this comma. But I want to attract your attention to this one. Look at these 2 sentences and tell which sentence looks strange to you.
Second.
Looks strange because we have comma.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, let me read it. I'd like to thank my parents, God and Mother Teresa
Mhm.
for inspiring me. And I'd like to thank my parents, God, and Mother Teresa for inspiring me.
The first one is strange.
Why?
The intonation.
God and Mother Teresa, it's
Are they your parents? So who can dare? Yes, actually, the reader might think that God and Mother Teresa are the parents of this person. So this can cause confusion, and in this case, obviously, it's better to put comma before and. So conclusion about listing commas. So use listing comma in a list wherever you could conceivably use the word and or instead of it. Do not use listing comma anywhere else. Obvious, yeah? Put a listing comma before and or only if this is necessary to make your meaning clear. So if it really influences the meaning, if you can be understood in a wrong way, then it's better to put it, okay, before and. Well, the next one is a joining comma, and as we said before, about the girls, the sentence about girls speaking different languages, it is used to join two complete sentences into a single one, and it must be followed by a suitable conjunction word, and the connecting words in this case can be which can be used in this case, they are and, or, but, while, and yet. And here are examples. Agnes robbed a bank, so separate sentence, and then she went out for a hamburger. Yeah, we eventually found the cave, but Jack was not there. So two separate independent sentences. A dropped goal counts 3 points in rugby union, while in rugby league it only counts 1 point. So again, but it's connected with while. Well, but with the words like this, you should be careful because these words, connecting words, cannot be preceded by comma. The words like however, therefore, hence, consequently, and so on. Well, this sentence, therefore, is not correct. So, conclusion about joining comma is that it is used to join two complete sentences with the words and, or, but, yet, or while, and do not use joining comma any other way. That's easy to say, but well, actually, when you practice, you will see how it works. So the next comma is a gap-in comma, and according to the name, it is used when we have a gap, when some information is missing. So not to repeat it, we use a comma. Look at this example. I like to read fantasy and science fiction. My sister, crime and mystery. So which information was omitted? What is if we put it, it will be repetition. What is it? Which word?
Likes to read.
Likes to read.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we should say I like to read fantasy and science fiction. And without conjunction, we can just put a semicolon. And my sister likes to read crime stories and mysteries. So instead of this, we just put comma in the first case, and it's called gap-in comma. But this comma, even in this approach, is considered to be optional. So in the following sentence, you see that Italy is famous for the composers and musicians, France for its chefs and philosophers, and Poland, and no comma, for their mathematicians and logicians. So no comma, and the meaning is still clear, right? So you can put it there to be, just in case, just to be sure that it's there, because that's this case, or you can leave it out only if the sentence sounds well and is understood correctly. So conclusion is the following: use your judgment, here you are allowed, if a sentence seems clear without these commas. And if it's okay, don't use them, so without it. And bracketing commas, which cause a lot of discussion and also arguments about it, so and a bit more complicated. So bracketing commas, also called isolating commas, used to show weak interruption. So of the sentence when you make a pause, and the interruption is like some information which doesn't influence the whole idea of the sentence. So without it, the sentence perfectly exists and it makes sense. Look at the examples here. They looked for the owner and finally finding him, they introduced themselves. So if you say they looked for the owner and they introduce themselves, does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's perfectly okay. So James wanted to stay after school, but after realizing he didn't have a ride home, decided to head home instead. So again, if underlined part is left out, the sentence is fine. Well, here, look at this sentence. What type of sentence is this? What is inside? Can you name it?
Non-defining clause.
Actually, yes, it's a relative non-defining clause because this information is not essential. And you know that if you have a non-defining relative clause, we put commas. Yeah, so that's a pair of commas. In this approach, they appear to be bracketing commas, so you can leave it out, and the sentence has a sense. So actually, when we have a name, there is one more prompt here. A name is already defining a person. So when we have a name, for sure, we will almost always have no defining relative clause. So we need commas to add this extra information. Yeah, so that's like a tip. Names followed by non-defining relative clauses, the one with commas. So you have commas because you see that is usually followed by defining relative clause. So here, no commas. It usually introduces them. Only in them you can see it if it's a relative clause. So with that, no commas. With names, usually commas. This can be not only the sentence, yeah, it can be a phrase like here, it can be short. All in all, I think we can say that we've done well. Yeah, it is at the beginning of sentence, so we have not a pair of the commas, but only one. So we apparently don't put comma at the beginning of sentence. So it can be at the beginning, it can be in the middle, and then we have a pair of commas like all in all. I think we can say that all in all, we've done well. Yeah, or I think we can say that we've done well, all in all. So it's at the end, separated by commas, and without it, the sentence is perfect. Yeah. Well, there are a number of common words which typically introduce weak interruptions containing complete sentences. Among them are the words like this. So if you have the words and they represent complete sentence, you separate it with commas. Look at these examples. Oh, sorry, yeah, here. Actually, what is the first one?
If.
Yeah, recognize here. Well, and the conclusion about bracketing clause. So you usually use a pair of bracketing commas to set off weak interruption, and it can be at the beginning, at the end, in the middle, and make sure that it's actually interruption, that the sentence really makes sense without it. If it is, that's the case. You can put commas. If not, then it's not. So, and the second, that's the checklist. You have to check yourself if the comma is in right place. So look at this, look at the sentence and ask yourself, can the comma be replaced by and or? So if it can, put comma. If is it followed by one of the connecting words, and, or, but, yet, or while? So if you have independent sentences. If it is, okay, put comma. Does it represent absence of repetition? So if we have some missing information which is not repeated, okay, it should be there. Does it form one of pair commas, setting off an interruption? So can this sentence be removed? If the part of information can be removed, it should be separated by commas. That's according to this approach. Of course, you can have some other ideas and so on, but that's what they say about. And the second sign we are going to speak about, the second punctuation mark, is a quotation mark, which obviously the main function is for direct speech. Yeah, we use it. So it includes direct quotation, the words, exact word that the person said, right? So what we use it well while teaching in direct speech. Yeah, So reported speech and so on. So look at this. Madonna is fond of declaring, I'm not ashamed of anything. Here you see that the quotation marks are single, actually British option. Yeah, there are also double quotation marks, and they are more like American, but it's not the strict division. Yeah, you can see it vice versa, but mainly yes, single for British, double quotation marks, they are used by Americans. So the point, the full stop, is inside the quotation marks, you can see, yeah, so not after this. So the quotation itself is a separate sentence, so we have a capital letter, I'm not ashamed, yeah, and it's introduced by comma, so after declaring we have a comma. By the way, again, most publishers use this comma here, well, the author of the book I read doesn't like it very much, and he says that it's not logical, it shouldn't have any commas, but well, if you look at examples, it is mainly there. So here the quotation can be separated, yeah, and if it's a separate sentence, you start quotation marks, you open them, put a sentence, close them, then your words, the authors, like spread love everywhere you go, again, Mother Teresa used to say, again, comma to introduce the next part, and the sentence starts with a big capital letter because that's a new sentence. Let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. Again, full stop and quotation closes. So here, double quotation marks, up to you to choose, except one case when actually, well, here, sorry, when we have in the second part, look at this example, we have not a capital letter, so that's just, but I sure that's like a part of the first sentence. It's not a separate sentence of quotation. Yeah, that's why we don't need a capital letter. I didn't see an actual alien being, but I'm sure I sure wish I would. Yeah, so here it's not a separate. That's why it's not a separate sentence. That's why we don't need capital letter. And in this case, look what we have. Yeah, we have single quotation marks. And what else? What can be a problem here? What might be misunderstood? Can you say it? Just say it, don't write. So what may be wrong? What may be misunderstood?
It's not direct speech.
That's direct speech.
But we have like a title and we have like the same mark for both.
You see, you think that's a title? Actually, that's apostrophe. Yeah, that's apostrophe. I'm sorry. Oh, I wanted to show, but yeah. So that's apostrophe actually. And if you have apostrophe inside of the sentence, especially at the beginning and at the ending of quotation, it can happen. Yeah. So it's better to use double quotation marks because it makes it clear where it starts and where it finishes. Yeah, because here you can see that Greeks is the last word of quotation. Yeah, but actually that's apostrophe. Is that clear? Yeah. So well, what about punctuation marks inside quotations? Well, if your quotation is a question, I think that's obvious. Yeah, you put a question mark inside quotation. If it's not, as in the second case, yeah, do you agree with the saying all's fair in love and war? So do you agree with saying that's a question? So we put a question mark after quotation. Yeah, but in the first case, will you still be my friend? That's a direct speech which has a question, right? That's why we put it inside quotation marks. And sometimes there are some crazy cases when there is a quotation inside quotation. So it can happen. So then there is a rule that we need to use different types of it. So Daniela said, and then another one, do not treat me that way, closes, and then a double quotation to show the difference. Yeah. So, but maybe that's better to rephrase such phrases, yeah, not to leave it, to change the sentence because it's too tricky. Well, there are also scary quotes. So who knows what is that? Can you give examples of not scary, scare quotes? Any ideas? Scary. So they are quotes that are used by the writer to show his own distancing from the word, or to show that some word is inappropriate in some context, or maybe show the author's irony, yeah, or attitude to this. Like here, I've just been ripped off by my insurance company. Maybe ripped off is not appropriate, like because of style, yeah, here in this sentence. Or this one, Sharon made dozens of adult films before getting to her Hollywood break. Here, adult films, that also shows disapproval, actually a double meaning of the word, yeah, so this. Well, some people say you don't need these scare quotes because, well, okay, if you're distance from the word, don't use it at all. Yeah, but again, it's up to you. You should know they exist and you can use it. Well, also, before, quotes were used with different titles of newspapers, books, etc. Yeah, but now the rules are changing, and mainly you can see that the names are used using italic. Okay, the names are shown, yeah, with the help of italics. So in the names of newspapers and books and so on. Okay, if you're writing something by hand, yeah, use single quotation marks for this. If you are typing, well, show it with italics. Also, you can use quotes with words. You are teachers, we are teachers, yeah, and we can need it. For example, explaining some word in speaking about the word as a unit of language. Yeah, man is an irregular plural. You can write even the rule for your students. Yeah, man, single quotation mark. The word processor came into the use around 1910. Yeah, so we're speaking about processor as a word. It's not a part of our sentence, like, but we describe it. But when we say about the translations of the words, we use italics for this. So the English word thermometer, and that's the word we're speaking about, is derived from the Greek word thermos, heat, yeah, and metron, measure. So the word's translation actually of the word is used with the help of, is shown with the help of italics. So conclusion about quotation marks is that we use quotation marks to distance yourself from a word or phrase, to show that you are using it ironically. Yes, and first meaning, sorry, I missed it, that you, of course, define exact words of a speaker with quotation marks, and use them when you speak about words or phrases, and prefer italics with titles instead of different quotation marks. Well, and that's it about these two punctuation marks, but now I would like to attract more like attention to what rules to teach, yeah. And could you tell me what if we speak about elementary levels, first level, where can you teach them punctuation? What
so reasons, choices, intermediate, starter, elementary.
Yeah, so if we
link in the words.
Any other, with which topics can you combine it with? What topics can you combine it with? Okay, so I prepared this. So capital letters, yeah, that's also punctuation. You can teach them full stops, where to use them, question marks, commas, exclamation marks, which go with functional language, commas which with enumeration, with contractions, with apostrophe, yeah, and apostrophe separately. That's also the type of, yeah, punctuation. When you teach grammar, yeah, so you can pay attention to this. At higher levels, that can be conditionals, can be past simple, past continuous when we have complex sentences. When we start teaching reported speech, And at higher levels, these are topics, grammar topics we have in our book, like relative clause, participle clause, fronting, order of adjectives, and so on. Well, what are the main tips? So guys, we're actually short of time, and well, I continue if you are like with me, or other way you can watch the recording or something. So 5 tips how to implement punctuation into class. This is teach grammar. So teach it with a grammar topic, connect it with grammar materials that students study. Employ writing. Anytime you teach writing, you emphasize punctuation. Employ the context. Take examples from the book, from the texts, from the listening they have in the book. Provide interesting examples. Stress communication. Communication means that, well, show examples where punctuation is really important, where it changes the meaning. Show how it influences. And well, emphasize that it's important to convey the correct meaning, what you really mean by sentence. The commas serve, and commas and all the punctuation serves for this. And proofread and edit all the tasks connected with punctuation. They are connected with editing the text because it's written work. Yeah. So add punctuation into your post-writing checklist, or during feedback on your written tasks, and so on. So there are different types of tasks you can give to your students while implementing a punctuation into the class. And I want to show you, it can be like a word snake or sentence snake. Example here, yeah? So I made it with myself, but I'm sure there are a lot of applications where you download the text and it makes like this, you give to students and they should separate it into sentences, put in commas and so on. The second is correcting mistakes, of course. Yeah, you can show cards for bingo. This one I found just recently, where you say the phrase, including functional language, including some useful vocabulary. Yeah, students have 3 cards of, for example, a full stop, a question mark, exclamation mark. You read the sentence and they show what the phrase should be followed by. Like you say, wow, and they show you an exclamation mark. Or you ask like, what time is it? And they show you a question mark. So again, this you can kill 2 birds with this, even 3 with this task. So unscrambling sentences, also including comma. Yeah, writing with difference. Okay, and whenever you have to write a story, yeah, you can use this. Like ask students first to write it in simple sentences, and then while editing, ask them to combine sentences into one. And here they will need punctuation. Here they will need some conjunctions to use it, and some complex sentences at higher levels. For higher levels, you can use simplified text compared to the original, but of course it's time consuming, and well, we don't have separate classes to teach punctuation, but it's a good idea to present punctuation. Yeah, how to. Here is a piece of newspaper article from New York Times. Here I simplified it, simple sentences. In this part, it's taken from newspaper, like original. Make them compare, say what the difference is, or you can ask them to make a more sophisticated text out of this, or you can take them this one and ask to separate. So your imagination, any goals you set, well, can be achieved here. So here, the next one, text with removed introductory phrases. You can use for studying, yes, for higher levels, combining 2 sentences into one, or removing quotation marks and let them make a dialogue, restore it. Yeah, and as the last, these are the types of tasks. Yeah, and actually, the last one is for both of them. To make different jokes, memes, and so on using punctuation where it really matters. Look at this. a woman without her man is nothing, or a woman without her man is nothing. Okay, guess what you like better, yeah? Here, no more books, no more books. So this can inspire your students to to learn more. Actually, let's see, grandma, the very popular one, kids too. Okay, I like cooking, my family and my pets, rather scary. And this one, so can be the task for the last lesson, can be the task to introduce punctuation. It can be some creative home task. Well, actually, well, sorry, the second part was a bit fast, yeah, because we are out of time. That's actually it. There are some links I used for making this presentation. They will be in the presentation. So if you have some questions, you can ask, or well, that's it. So you can ask any questions if something is not clear, or that's all.
Everything was clear. Yeah,
Oh.
thank you so much.
Okay, I hope it
Yes,
was
thank you so
a
much.
bit useful. Yeah. So the main idea that you don't have to explain all those rules to your students. Yes, that I told you about comma. You should find the most reasonable ones. Yes, and implement whenever you can during the classes. Okay, you don't have any questions. I wish you to have a good day. Have nice lessons, and
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah, goodbye.